The South Asian community was the largest visible minority group in Ontario in 2006.
Its population of 794,170 accounted for 28.9% of all visible minorities in the province.
South Asians are defined as any people who report ethnicity associated with the southern part of Asia or who self-identify as part of the South Asian visible minority group.
South Asians are people who originate from Bangladesh, Bhutan,
India,
Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, and also includes
diaspora who have migrated from other parts of the world but have ancestral roots from South Asian countries.
The Canadian South Asian community is currently one of the most diverse visible minority groups
that includes a range of ethnic, religious, and linguistic groups.
One remarkable quality that this group is recognized for is strong family interaction
and social networks that are defined by ethnic customs, traditions, and heritage languages.
People were looked on not very well. We were termed the Pakis, and we went through a lot of ridicule. They looked at you and that was who you were labeled. So getting onto public transport, going to school, especially I remember sitting in a bus and people would get up. So that was something very foreign, because coming from East Africa, you never really had any of this thing happen to you.
When we used to walk on the road, every second or third car in the summer, they would scream "Paki" at us. Or some of these young people would throw their burning cigarette butts at us. So, and some of the East Indians who used to get, those who worked at night when they came in the subway, they were abused, assaulted. But I suppose with time, after they came to associate with the East Indian community, they felt that they were cultured people, that they were educated people. I think now they have respect for the East Indian person. Initially, our experience was that, but fortunately, that's something of a past incident.
People were embarrassed to wear their saris downtown in Toronto. People would look at them as if they've come out from the zoo, or the kurta or the dhoti. But now it's a normal wear downtown, because we have put, I would say, put this culture on the map of, on the footprints of, if not the GTA, I would say in Canada also.
I migrated to Canada in 1991, and like many immigrants, I went through a lot of struggle in my life as well, being new, being well educated. But these hurdles never let me down in terms of what I wanted to achieve by coming to Canada.
To find a job and to do further studies in Canada, to be competitive in the market, these were the challenges. And plus, like, people didn't know about us, who we were.
Well, for me, it was the first 3 months is still very vividly clear. Getting all of our different cards, the HAR card, the SUN card, interviewing for jobs, and finally landing one in the first 6 weeks of landing. So that was a pretty good achievement on our part, and I still remember that time more so that it was the heart of winter. We landed on February 15th, and we spent the next 6 weeks getting adjusted to the weather as the biggest thing.
I was sponsored by the temple, so like it's not like I just came in a point system and to find a job, and so like it was already settled for me, everything, so I didn't have any problem. So the problem is only for a language problem.
When you are referring to the job, for me it was okay, but for her it was a little tough time, because he was too young to let it go with some other daycare center, because we are not used to letting the kids out with a third person to take care of. So she had to struggle initial period, and we had to survive with one income. But down the line, when she started to look around for the job, she had a real tough time. She has to undergo call centers, means 2-3 places. Then it was not up to the mark, because when an educated person is invited to the country, they expect they start from that level.
When I came here, the benefits did not exist to a degree of what they are today, and also there wasn't much awareness. We weren't aware of the services that are being offered, which services segiyan, but we didn't know if we can take. The only service that I took was to get my resume critique. And even on my appearance, how I should face the interview, I was not told anything about it. So I would say a lot of our people who come here as immigrant aren't aware of most of the services.
When I came to Canada in 1981, I felt that there are many services and I could achieve them, but still they were not sufficient at that time. But I feel that the thinking is changing, and there is the attitude the attitude is changing, and such services are more available now. Since childhood I had determination of doing something, and I was after that. In fact, when I had this polio attacked me, there were no facilities back home. There were no wheelchairs, no ramps, nothing of the sort, no braces. And in fact, in my childhood, I was sitting on the ground and dragging my body with the help of hands. With that situation, I went to schools.
I have seen some resentment among some people also, because they were holding high positions back home, but when they came here, their dreams were shattered. Just last week what happened, we heard that somebody jumped from a bridge in Scarborough, and he was a senior officer at in a bank back home. He was a vice president or executive vice president. So he came with his family and he could not find a suitable job. So there was some pressure from his family to do the odd job, and he decided not to do that. So he took on his life.
South Asians often come across as rude, obnoxious, but that's not the way. In India or in Pakistan, etc., it's your job to follow. You need the job. You need to constantly be calling the employer and say, I called you. Did you get my resume, etc. But here, it's sometimes construed as they're being pressured, or they're being hounding us, or they're very out there in your face. That sort of thing. And the poor immigrant doesn't realize that, because that's what they know. Like in India, it would be if they didn't follow and repeatedly put in those calls, then hey, they didn't care enough about the job.
My parents were going through a lot of problems, like finding jobs, because my dad was qualified as a CA, but technically his degree didn't mean anything here. And my mom, she had to start working at a store, and that. But I mean, that's how they started, and that was the toughest time.
When you go to find job over here, the first of things they ask you for do you have experience or not?
Yeah, they want a Canadian experience.
So Canadian experience.
Yeah.
So just I give you an example. Like when she finishes her nursing course, and when she applied for one hospital, they ask you for Canadian experience.
So how can you get experience if you don't give us a chance, right? Exactly, I told them that, and maybe she was laughing at me, and I said, it's true, somebody has to offer you a job, then you will get experience. And I think most of the people are professional people here, but because of the Canadian experience, they don't have it, they won't get a job.
The skills are definitely very transferable. I think what we really require is the willingness for employers, etc., to accommodate learners. And if there was more mentorship in jobs, then I think these people could definitely learn the Canadian way.
We are new here. We don't know how to go through all that process. So then we moved to the apartment. We had another problem moving in an apartment. They asked for the reference. They asked for the, you have 2 kids, you need 3-bedroom apartment. You can't stay in 2-bedroom. So many, all those issues, we didn't know that. It's especially the living and even the traveling. We even, TTC, we heard about that. And when we travel with TTC, we didn't know that with one ticket you can travel one way. So when we get up at one place and to go another, we paid again.
Well, I arrived to Canada as what people would call an unaccompanied minor. That means I came without my parents. I came with a sister who was only a couple of years older than me. I was 16 when I arrived here. So immediate challenges were first financial challenges. You know, you couldn't get work immediately. I had to go into studies, and how do I manage? So, you know, technically I would go to immediately social assistance.
People are not living as close together with family as they would back home. And another reason would be that people are busy with their lives, whereas people have a little more time on their hands back home. Generally back home there are people who have a family sort of business, and it extends to the the broader family also, whereas here people are have their own jobs, their own commitments, and therefore because of the individual responsibilities, that close-knit is not there, and that's why the structure would not be as similar to back home.
Loss of family, loss of childhood, loss of places that you associated, loss of your friends, and all those stuff in a new environment was a much difficult struggle. And but it's the resiliency in this community, because we come from a war-torn country, that has kind of pushed us to say, education is the only way out. So stick in there and hang in there and get through it.
My ancestry came from India years ago, and when they came to East Africa, they established shops, and they became tradespeople, and they became business people.
When you're new to the country, you're in a different land, a strange land. You come here, you have to find a place to live, you got to find a place to work, and then you need a place where you can meet other people, meet people of your own background. It is tough for the first few years. It is tough. But I think if you have made a commitment to yourself, to your family, and to the country you come to, you do find a way to be successful.
It's a whole range of issues that we need to address with the community, which are not being addressed right now. And sometimes the community has a habit of pulling those issues under the carpet, and we need to educate the community that in the world that we're living in the North American society, these are no longer taboos. We need to address them, and there are solutions to it.
I'm an architect, a solution architect for IBM Canada.
I work with the York Region District School Board as a student and community liaison.
I teach at York University, Department of Mathematics.
I'm a principal at one of the York Region schools.
I'm the manager of family programs.
The director of religious affairs.
I am the president of the Vishnu Mandir.
I'm the president of Gursikh Sabha Canada.
I'm coming from India, Hyderabad.
I came from Bangladesh in 1993.
I come from East Africa.
I came from Guyana, South America, but my forefathers are from Bihar, 3 generations ago. So our forefathers came there 150 years ago.